Good morning. I haven't had my coffee yet. So I'm getting a whole lot of negative comments about my assertion that Trump's mass deportation will involve American citizens and legal immigrants, and not just the illegal immigrants that he's talking about on or that they claim to talk about. So people are thinking that, well, that's impossible. If you're a U.S. citizen, you can't be deported. Okay, well, a couple of things to start with. First of all, I'm not saying that he is intentionally going to target American citizens, or that on paper and legal process that that's going to be the objective. No. Or even legal immigrants. Underneath the policies and the words that are coming out of Trump and his administration's mouth, it at its core, it's racist. That's where it's coming from. So the fact that so many people missed that, so many Latinos didn't understand that they actually believed when they said that it's okay for legal immigrants to be here. It's just the illegal ones that we have a problem with. The undocumented ones, those are the ones that are vermin and animals and need to be, or that are raping our kids and that are committing all these crimes, being dumped here from other countries' prisons. The undocumented ones. The documented folks are just fine. They say that out loud, right? But ultimately, that's not what they mean, as evidenced by their response to the legal Haitian immigrants in Ohio that were so viciously attacked by his people. Those were legal immigrants, right? Those were the ones eating their dogs and eating their cats. Those folks were legal. It's not hard, if you have any semblance of intelligence and rational, reasonable thought, to see right through the dog whistle. Thing that drives me nuts is that that the Latino community thinks that they are included in Trump's little group, that they're part of his team. He 100% used it. Here's what's crazy. He wasn't even going after your vote. I mean, other than his occasional stupid comments, he wasn't intentionally coming after you guys, because his main talking points to try to get folks on board was immigration. He's been talking about mass immigration and talking bad about these folks for years. It's very clear his target audience were the Southern racist MAGA people. He was literally telling them, "Hey guys, we're going to report them, all of them. We're going to get rid of them," because he was feeding off of that inherent racism that exists in that group. Right? I mean, that's really fundamentally what it's about. And not just Latinos, but all immigrants. But the way that you do that, the way that you say that without saying it, is by saying, well, it's the illegal immigrants, the undocumented immigrants. Those are the animals and the vermin. It's like, wait, what are you talking about? They're people. It's a type of people. So, I mean, that's first. Just the fact that you missed that. And that you proudly beat your chest thinking, well, I'm safe because I'm a U.S. citizen and I'm a legal immigrant, or I'm a legal immigrant. Obviously, he's not coming after me. Same way that the dog, you got to understand the reality of this. First of all, some history. This isn't the first time that the United States has planned for and executed mass deportations. It's happened before. In the 50s, on the tail end of a program they called Operation, or they called the Vaquero program, which was literally a collaboration between Mexico and the United States to bring in laborers from Mexico legally on temporary status so they could come in and work in agriculture and then go back home. And both sides of the border were involved in that operation. And it was, had to do with the Second World War. We needed labor. There was really real things going on. It didn't turn out the way that they wanted, because illegal folks were still coming across in mass amount. Why? Well, because it was still hard, even with that program, to get in legally. And the farmers in the U.S. were still employing folks illegally. So ultimately, both sides, here's what's nuts. at that time, I mean, it was a disaster. It actually was very short lived too, because it went so horribly wrong when they implemented the new operation called well, they call it wetback. And I don't know if that anyway, but that's what they called it, right? That was the legal name of the operation. And I'm not going to say that word again. It's pretty darn derogatory, and hate to get flagged for it. So we'll call it moist back. But that was the operation, and this was, I think it started in '54. Now check this out. Sound familiar? There was a massive problem with illegal or undocumented immigrants, and for political reasons. Remember, at the time, Baquero was bringing a lot of people in legally into the United States to work. And this is the '50s. You know, racial tension was pretty high. I mean, there was racism was rampant in the '50s. That's the Make America Great time frame that Trump always talks about. Back when, people were separated and segregated, and it was accepted and understood that they had their place. Racism was rampant. So Operation Baquero, which was bringing in a whole bunch of immigrants legally into the country. They're all over the place. The white population in America didn't like that, especially when they started expanding beyond the border states up into the interior. It was horrible. So it was this political nightmare, and so they had to change that. So it's like, okay, well, now we need to get rid of all of these folks. We need to get them deported. My point is just like today, it had everything to do with racism and political stunts. Because the reality of it is we need those folks here. That's why we started that Operation Baquero in the first place back then, because we needed those folks here. Everybody will tell you that. I mean, there's folks all over online right now talking about the damage to our economy that is going to come from this operation, right? These guys like my shirt? In case you were curious. Anyway, so we know darn well we need them here. So the only reason we could be talking, first of all, the reason that Trump's campaign, Trump himself, has demonized these folks, it's all for political purposes, to divide Americans amongst ourselves. He divides us up by identifying a common enemy, right? The bad guy, and one big part of his bad guy were the immigrants. And then second, now he has to demonize that group so that you feel okay about hating them, and he did by calling them names, etc., right? But ultimately, it was never about economics or even safety, because the truth of it is that statistically speaking, you are more likely to be assaulted or hurt by a natural-born American white citizen than you are an immigrant, legal or illegal. By far, ratio-wise, they don't come here to commit crimes. So all of that was bullshit. All of it, the fear-mongering, everything that they did was bullshit. Ultimately, it was a political stunt. It was racially motivated, and it kind of delved into an individual's own personal racism that's rampant in the country still, mostly in those rural areas. It's still there, obviously, clearly hasn't gone. The racism and misogyny has been strong, right? So now what happens? Great. Okay, dude got elected because he convinced a bunch of morons to vote for him. 50% of the Latino vote went to Trump. That's insane, right? That's the biggest. You just got to shake your head, right? So, okay, so now what? So he's going to actually try to implement this operation to mass deport folks because he has to. Even though it was just a political stunt, he still has to feed that base. He's still got to give them something. It's going to fail miserably, because just the logistics alone aren't sustainable. I mean, he's not going to be able to pull off what he's trying to pull off. But don't think he won't try. And he will have he'll cause a lot of damage in the process. And a lot of legal immigrants and United States citizens are going to get caught up in the chaos. And yeah, they will be deported. It happened in the 50s. A lot of U.S. citizens and legal immigrants got deported as part of that operation. And a big part of that operation, too, was when they rounded up these folks, they didn't just drop them across the border. With the cooperation of the Mexican government, they flew them and bused them way to the interior of Mexico. That was a big part of it. Dun, dun, dun. No, hold up. I got to Yeah, so they bust a lot of these folks deep down into the interior, or they flew them into the interior of Mexico. They weren't. Yeah, that's good. All right, sorry guys, hold up. Yeah. Anyway, so they but again, I think the main point that I'm trying to make is that they had the cooperation of the Mexican government in the operation, in that operation Moistback that occurred in the 50s. Again, it was racially driven, it was politically motivated, and it was all about just gaslight. I'm not gaslight, about the dog whistle to get the base to support the candidates at the time. So they executed that thing. Thousands of legal immigrants got deported, and hundreds of United States citizens either got detained and put in camps, which is part of the process, or they actually got deported into Mexico and then had to argue and fight to get their way back in. And it wasn't easy. But that's not the point. All right? The aftermath of it isn't the point. That they stayed gone isn't the point. It's that it's all going to be a big media show, right? So Trump is going to capitalize on people being carted out of the fields or out of the workplace, loaded on buses and put in camps, and then eventually sent away, right? So there's going to be this huge media blitz about how that happens. And it isn't going to be able to happen in the mass quantities that he's hoping, but he sure is going to make a media blitz of it, and he's going to make it's going to be a big thing. But here's the other thing that I think is funny. People that are arguing against this, saying that this is just fear-mongering and that it can't happen, saying that legal immigrants have documentation, they're here legally, surely they won't be able to be deported. U.S. citizens, that's illegal, they can't do that. Okay, first of all, listen to what you're saying, Trump supporters, right? You are now going to what? Rely on the legal system, the law, right? Your leader doesn't give a rat's ass about the law. In fact, dude is immune from prosecution. He has no consideration for the law. He abandoned that a long time ago. You aren't the party of law and order. Donald Trump and MAGA isn't about law and order. You think some legal process is going to stop him from doing the things that he's saying? Hell to the no. Of course not. First of all, but even beyond that, it goes beyond just him ignoring the law. He's going to change the law. He's going to find loopholes in the law. One thing he's going to do is, first of all, he's going to reinstitute his whole denaturalization program that he started back when he was president under super mega racist Stephen Miller. They had that denaturalization program, which was literally stripping naturalized citizens, people that were United States citizens, of their status and making them immigrants, undocumented or documented immigrants. Again, you are no longer a U.S. citizen. I don't care if you took the test. I don't care if you've been here for 20 years. You are not a citizen anymore, right? And did you know that one of the ways that you can fall into that trap of becoming a denaturalized U.S. citizen is simply by having told a lie or filling out your application wrong? You put one date on that wrong, right? The date that you entered, you said it was October 7th, and it turns out, no, it was October 9th. That right there, that's grounds to strip your citizenship, making it virtually impossible to fight. Because any simple, I guess my point is, there are mega reasons and loopholes in the law that would empower Trump's people to basically denaturalize anybody they want. They have the power, right? They could have the Congress. They have the Supreme Court. They're going to denaturalize a whole lot of people. Why? Because it's easier to do that. So they're going to denaturalize a whole bunch of folks. Now let's just talk about the mass deportations. Think about the process involved to make that happen. Think about just the logistics, okay? First of all, you guys have to understand something. Immigration law is a very specific set of rules and law. And actually, only certain officers are enforced or authorized to enforce that law, and lawyers to practice it. It is a very specific law, and it's actually really complicated, the law. Why? Because it's one of those grandfathered kind of things, which basically means your citizenship is determined by the laws at that time that you either became a citizen or tried to become a citizen. So let's say you were born to a military personnel. Let's say you were born to somebody in the military that was, at the time you were born, in an outlying, let's call it a territory of the United States, and it wasn't an actual state, but you were in a territory. Your father was a U.S. soldier, but your mother was not a U.S. citizen. She was somewhere else, and you were born in 1972. Whatever the immigration laws in 1972 were that governed whether or not you gained citizenship through that arrangement held true. 4 years later, that could have changed. And it could have said, it could be that at that point in time, 4 years later, that same situation wouldn't give you citizenship. And it just changed over the years. And an immigration official that has to determine citizenship on the fly has to know all of those rules and all those time frames and be able to basically ask you all the right questions to determine your citizenship. My point is, it's very complex. But think about it like now, first of all, immigration law is a civil thing. So just like in criminal law, if a law enforcement officer suspects you of committing a crime, they have to have probable cause to make an arrest, reasonable suspicion to detain you, probable cause to make an arrest, right? Make an arrest, and then they have to document all that stuff, and then be able to put you before a judge. The judge will actually review the evidence, make some determinations as to whether it's even legal to have you in front of him or not. Eventually, you could have a jury trial or a trial by a judge. There's a whole legal process to go from where I suspect you having broke a law to making a determination that law was broken, and then some sort of punishment. Immigration law is similar. Somebody has to first make a determination that they believe that you have broken immigration law, meaning that they think you are here illegally, right? And those people that make that determination are immigration officers. So they have a whole set of rules where they can determine, I think this guy's not here legally. And then if they do, then in order to make that ultimate judgment, that comes down to an immigration judge. Right. There's still a process. You have to go through this whole process and get stood before an immigration judge. The whole same rules apply about how long you can detain them before charges are filed, what those charges are, do you have probable cause, all of that kind of stuff. Eventually you get magistrated, you end up in front of a judge, and that's an immigration judge, and the immigration judge will review your paperwork and decide if you can be here legally or not. And that also holds true to asylum cases. They have to go through this process. So let's just talk about that process, because when you do mass deportations, you are legally deporting somebody from the United States. The process of deportation is long and complex. The reason that it's long has to do with personnel. We don't have enough immigration judges. We don't have enough people and even space to process everyone. This is why people that come into the United States, claim asylum, right, or even are arrested and charged with entry without inspection, have to wait a long time before they get their day in court. So what do they do when they are waiting to get their day in court? They're given papers and they're set free in the United States to wait for their day, because they are afforded the same rights that U.S. citizens are. That's in our Constitution. The Constitution does not limit our civil rights to American citizens. Anybody on our territory is afforded the same rights. Look that up, and that's really important to understand. They have the same rights that we do as far as trial, habeas corpus, all of that kind of stuff. So they would have to go through that whole entire system. So how are you going to deport millions of people quickly if you have to go through the same process that those immigrants have to go through today, which takes years? That's part of the reason we have a problem, because we don't have the infrastructure to support processing folks. People come to the border, they get arrested, they ask for their day in court. They have to wait a couple of years for their day in court. Sometimes they never show up. If they do show up and it's determined that they get deported years later. So now you're going to have to somehow do all of that in a matter of weeks or days in order to do mass deportations like Trump wants to do. So what do you think is going to happen? You think Trump is just going to sit back and say, oh, shit, I guess we can't do this? No. He's going to have to make some changes. And I guarantee you, what are the changes that he's going to make? Right? What are the changes that he's going to make? First of all, he's going to change the law. He's going to institute executive orders that grant the authority, because law enforcement, Department of Justice, all of that, Immigration Service, are all part of the executive branch. So remember earlier I was saying only immigration officers that have been trained and are authorized to enforce immigration law are the ones that can do it. He's going to change that. He's going to say no, local law enforcement, U.S. military, basically anybody will be allowed to enforce military law, which means they can make the same determination of that complex law that I just said earlier. That's one step, because he's not going to be able to hire, 10,000 or 100,000 more Border Patrol agents or immigration officers. It's not going to happen, right? So he's going to change that. He's going to say, okay, first of all, we're going to let a whole lot of new people enforce the law. That's one of the initial steps of doing this, because I'm sorry, no matter what happens, the very first thing somebody has to look at a person or look at a log in an employee's record or employer's record. They're going to have to make a decision to say, this is someone that I think should be deported. That person I think should be deported. Those people working in that field I think should be deported. All of those guys I think should be deported. Yeah, we have logs of people that are here that we think are here undocumented or illegally, right? So somebody has to make that determination, and those are going to be the law enforcement officers, just like the ones that pull you over because they think you committed a crime. They think you ran a stoplight. They think you did something, right? And now the people that are going to be doing that aren't trained, don't understand immigration law. And guess what else, right? They've spent the last years being taught and trained that undocumented immigrants are vermin, they're a scourge on society, they're rapists, they're prisoners, they're dangerous. That's all they've heard. Oh, but a lot of these law enforcement officers and military folks, these are good people. Yeah, but not for long. One of the things that Donald Trump is going to do is he's going to replace good people with Trump people. Are some Trump people good people? I doubt it. I doubt it. They're either in on it with Trump because they're racist, or they're idiots. That's it. I mean, that comprises the MAGA movement. You are either in on it, part of the con, or you're an idiot. And you can't see what's happening, which I think constitutes the majority of Latinos for Trump. They just don't know what the hell is going on, right? So that's what's going to happen. First thing is he's going to have all of these people that are untrained now given the authority to make a determination on whether or not somebody needs to be investigated as being here legally or illegally. Now, what are they going to have to go off of? How you look. That's it. Have you guys ever heard of racial profiling? Yeah, it's alive and well, and it's going to be authorized and legal. Law enforcement officers are going to make a decision to determine if they think you might be here illegally based on how you look, dress, and talk. So all of you Latino Americans for Trump, step one is you are going to be stopped and asked, are you here legally? I don't give a shit if you're wearing your MAGA hat or any of that nonsense. You're still going to be subject to that same discrimination. And you're going to be asked. They're going to knock on your door. Hey, Pedro. What? I'm MAGA. Yeah, well, prove it. Show me your documentation. Latin Americans, anyone that doesn't look like Trump and his racist white MAGA movement is going to have to start carrying around papers. Papers. Show me your papers. Show me your papers. Show me your papers. And all this shit about it, not if they didn't break the law, my ass. Think, use your head. How are you going to know if somebody is here legally or illegally? There's only one way to know that. You got to ask them. You have to investigate them. You're going to think they're here illegally because they look like Trump said they look. You're going to worry about them being scary and monsters and rapists. So when you ask them that question, you're probably going to have your gun drawn or your pew-pew drawn and pointed at them. Right? That's what's going to happen. That's the reality of it. It's going to be rampant. There's going to be rampant discrimination and racism because there's no other way around it. You guys are doing it already. Write in my comments. You keep trying to differentiate undocumented versus documented, illegal versus legal, but you don't know if they're here legally until you ask them. So you're going to suspect all of them are here undocumented, all of them are legal or illegal, and then you're going to want to investigate them. That's what's going to happen. Do you think Bubba on the street looks at somebody that doesn't look white and his first thought is, oh, that must be a legitimately legal immigrant? No! And if you think that, get your head examined, homie, because that's ridiculous. So that's the result of putting a racist in office. Because from the top down, that permeates. And all of you guys beating your chest, acting like you're just because you're defending American citizens, you're not. Because two things. A, it's all bullshit. They're not dangerous. More crimes are committed, ratio, by U.S. citizens, white Americans, than are immigrants. And I'm not talking numbers. I'm talking ratio, which means for every 10 immigrants, 1 crime is committed. For every 10 U.S. citizens, 3 crimes are committed. They are just less dangerous. You're more likely to get assaulted by MAGA than you are an immigrant. That's absolutely 100% true. Oh, but why should we pay? You're not paying for them. They're paying for themselves. Undocumented immigrants contribute more to the United States economy and pay more in taxes than most MAGA red poor states. The truth is, undocumented immigrants are paying for your MAGA white, single, divorced, trailer park living, racist ass welfare. They're the ones footing your bill. 8 of the top 10 states in the United States right now, 8 of the top 10 states that are the poorest, that are literally living off of federal subsidies, welfare, are Republican red states. That means they can't pay their own bills. That means MAGA is on welfare. Undocumented aliens, undocumented immigrants contribute more in taxes and to the economy than they take from it because they can't get benefits. So all this stuff they're talking to you about, it's literal nonsense. And if you had any sense of truth, any desire to know the truth or look at facts, you could see that information. It's out there for you to find. It's real. So it was all a big lie in the first place. Right? So now they're going to follow up with this, let's deport them all, as a political stunt, because they're feeding this racism that they've awakened in all of you guys. So now they're going to try to deport all of these folks. And I digress, but step 1 is somebody has to identify which of those immigrants, people that look different, should we investigate to determine if they are in fact here legally or not. That's step 1. We don't have enough people that are going to be able to ask that question right now and that have been trained and know how to ask that question and make that determination, whether or not your documentation is good, bad, or ugly. Those are the immigration officials. We don't have enough of them, Border Patrol agents, etc., folks on the board at the ports of entry. So you've heard them. They're going to bring in the military. They're going to empower local law enforcement. They're going to basically empower a whole bunch of Trump MAGA racists to make that determination. What do you think the result of that's going to be? You think people that are here legally aren't going to be bothered with? No, they sure as hell are going to be bothered with. Oh, guess what else Trump's doing? He's going to make sure that all law enforcement officers can't be held accountable when they make mistakes. He said that many times. He doesn't like it when a cop pew-pews and unalives somebody and then gets held accountable for that. They're just doing their job. They made a mistake. All right? Law enforcement needs to be empowered and not worry about getting in trouble for doing their job. So bottom line is, these new military and law enforcement people that are going to be brought to bear on this mass deportation are going to be immune from prosecution from getting it wrong, which means they are not going to give a rat's ass if you're here legally or not. At the bare minimum, they get to round you up, put you on a bus, and send you to some camp right on down the line to let someone else figure it out. They're going to look at your paperwork and say, that doesn't look right. Pedro, get on the bus. Let the judge figure it out. Absolutely 100%. Because their president is a racist. Their president convinced you and everybody that the people that you're going after are dangerous, They're raping your children, right? They got pew-pews. They're criminals. He's convinced you of that. Second, you already have some racist bones in you, stirring up. Otherwise, you wouldn't have voted for the guy. Third, you don't have to worry about getting in trouble if you get it wrong. Anybody that thinks that ends well is just lying to yourself or to everyone around you, because once it happens, you're going to be on the wrong side of history. And I'm going to tell you, Jones, I spent 10 years in law enforcement. I was a federal agent. I worked for the United States Border Patrol. I do know what I'm talking about. My whole family's in law enforcement. It's in my blood. So I see that your son's a DPS officer. Whoop-de-doo. I know what the hell I'm talking about. And you don't have to trust me, man. There's evidences out there. And everything I'm saying here, it's logical. It makes sense. I'm not making stuff up. Somebody tell me how what I said doesn't make sense. Somebody tell me who is it that's going to be making the determination whether a person needs to be investigated for being in here in the country illegally. Who does that? Is it the qualified immigration judge? Are you going to send immigration judges that have the power of the law and know everything there is to know about immigration law? Are you going to send 100,000 of them to go knocking on doors and say, sir, show me your papers? No, it's going to be law enforcement officers. And again, you don't have enough qualified immigration officers that know what they're doing to do it. You're going to have to empower people. The military, he's already said that's what they're going to do. Those are the ones that are going to go out asking the questions when they show up to the workplace and they see a field full of people that don't look like them. They're not white. And they say, I got to ask all those people whether or not they're here legally. They're going to ask the employee, show me your documentation that these folks are here legally. And they're going to say, oh, okay, great. Now let's go interview everyone. They're going to ask the U.S. citizen the same questions that they ask the illegal, undocumented immigrant. It's part of the investigation, man. It's going to happen. And you think, at the minimum, U.S. citizens are not going to have to run around with papers and hope that their papers are with them at all times and they don't get caught without them. Does that sound familiar? Anybody here ever watch the History Channel? I know you didn't study history. You ever just watch the History Channel? You know, it happened in the 30s. It's the same shit. It's going to happen here. It's already happening here. But now it's illegal. Oh, it gets worse. It gets a lot worse. Now they've rounded them up. You're going to have mass roundups, even if they end up proving their case to an immigration judge, right? Even if they prove it, they're still going to have to sit in some detention center, in some camp somewhere, waiting for their opportunity, for their day in court. And that's where it gets really scary. The reason that the current immigration process of qualifying somebody to be here legally, of listening to somebody's asylum case, the reason it takes so long is because it's so impactful. It's important to safeguard the civil rights of people in our country. So you don't rush through that. You don't pick somebody out of the crowd and say, you're illegal, throw them across the river. That's not how that works. Our civil rights, the Constitution, it protects us from being harassed and unlawfully deported. That's why we go through that process. So either you accept that process, Mr. Trump, and now you've filled up this camp with people and you decide, I'm still going to give them their day in court because I respect the law, I respect the Constitution. We're talking about Trump here. He either decides that that's what he's going to do and let them sit there for a very long time, because not only are there a lot more of them now waiting for their day in court, we still don't have any more immigration judges because he killed that bill. Oh, well, he'll pass a new one. He'll hire more. Really? You think he's going to appoint 100,000 new immigration judges in order to process these folks and give them their proper day in court? No, he's not. He's going to change the rules. He is going to make it more efficient and expedite the process. And what's going to suffer? He's either going to spend a lot of money to do it, or he's going to strip away rights. He's going to remove rights, change things in our law so that those people don't have to have their day in court. That's what's going to happen. The only way he successfully deports millions of people in a short amount of time is either by spending billions of dollars so that everybody can get an expedited day in court, which that'll take a long time and cause mass chaos, or he changes the rules to make it easier to get them out. And when you make things easier, you're stripping people of their rights. You're stripping the safeguards that we have in place to protect our civil rights. That's what happens when you make things easier. That's what happens when things get more efficient. And guess who's going to get caught up in the easier process to get people gone? Just like in the 50s, United States citizens that aren't the right color, don't speak the language properly, don't dress the right way, don't have the right jobs. It don't matter if you're wearing a MAGA hat. You're going to get caught up in that. There's no way around it. You're going to get picked up at your house or at your place of employment, and with your birth certificate in hand, you're going to be put on a bus, and you're going to be sent to some detention center where you sit for weeks, months, a long time, the whole time screaming, "But my papers." Eventually, you'll get in front of some arbiter, right? Which isn't going to be an immigration judge. It'll be some other process that they say, and they're gonna say, you got to go. Now, it could even get scarier. Let's talk about asylum. You guys have heard of catch and release, right? Have you heard of catch and release? The whole idea. Do you know why people say that the border is open and everyone's coming through illegally? It's because of this. Because today, under Biden and any sane, ethical president, a foreign-born person can come to our border and claim asylum, right? They can come right up to the bridge. They can cross the river and say, "I want asylum. I'm running. I'm being persecuted." Right? International law and just human dignity and rights, we afford that person the opportunity to have a day in court where they can claim that asylum. And what we do is say, okay, you're here in the United States. You're on our ground. You're claiming asylum. I can't let a judge make the determination for your asylum for 2 years because we have a backlog. So in the meantime, here, go get a job, contribute, etc. Also, carry around this cell phone, which doesn't have cell service, doesn't have internet access, but it does have an application on it so that I can track you and make sure I know where you are and you can report in. And they let them loose. Trump calls those people illegal aliens, undocumented immigrants. Those are the vast majority of the people that you guys are screaming about that are here on bad terms. People that are actually looking for asylum were let loose. The amount of people that sneak across the border and are never apprehended are this many. That's not who you're talking about. So see, first of all, you're wrong. They're not undocumented. They have documents. They're here legally. They're waiting for the court. Trump didn't like the catch and release program. And a lot of you people jumped on board when he closed the border. Closing the border. It's closed today. But you know what that really meant? It means if you're seeking asylum, asking for a day in court, we'll give you a day in court, but you're going to stay out of our country until that day of court. You see where I'm going with this, right? This is fact, man. He literally said, you can seek asylum, but you can't stay in the United States while we're waiting to give you a day in court in front of an immigration judge. He just rounded up. Now let's jump forward. I explain that because you got to think about the way the guy thinks. What's different when he rounds up and picks up a United States citizen that looks like he doesn't belong here, drops him in a detention camp, and basically the officer says, I don't believe your documentation. It doesn't look right to me. That birth certificate could be forged, and somebody said you were an illegal, undocumented immigrant, so you're going to have to see an immigration judge. I'm just a cop. I'm not the one that makes the determination. I'm just the one that puts you in front of the judge. So you're like, fine, when do I get to see the judge? Oh, that's a year from now. Oh, no, that's 2 years from now. Oh, and guess what? In the meantime, you can't stay here. You got to go to the other country. Here's your paperwork. Here's your court date. When your court date comes, come back to the border. We'll let you in. You got a United States citizen sitting in Mexico thinking WTF as he's got his MAGA hat on. That's the reality of it. Everything I just said is logical. Everything that I said can and will happen. And if you don't think that, then it's ridiculous. And anybody, I've heard this so many times. You guys are just fear-mongering. No. If we were ever responsible for fear-mongering, it was before the election. Because we were trying to warn you that most of us educated people that have experienced different cultures, live in the big cities, and know reality from fiction, we're trying to tell you, dumb bucks, you're screwing this up bad. Pay attention. That was fear-mongering back then. Now, it ain't fear-mongering. It's fuck around and find out. And you've entered the find out stage. But if we sat back, the people on the left, the intelligent people that tried to warn you and don't say anything, you know what would happen? Donald Trump and his lie machine with Elon Musk and Stephen Miller, they would convince you that Democrats are deporting you. And you'd believe it. That's what would happen. The whole time you're being deported, they would be feeding you some story that makes zero sense, but you, being the doofus that you are, would sit there being like, oh yeah, fucking Joe Biden. That's what would happen. So no, we're not going to do that. Between now and the time that we bring your ass back, we're going to put it in your face every single day, and we're going to tell you over and over and over and over again, this is the reality we warned you about. You see, as it's happening, we told you so. Look, it's happening over. Oh, and yeah, we're going to laugh a little bit. There's got to be some pointing and fucking laughing. But unlike MAGA, when this all plays out, in the end, we will go back to you. We'll hold out our hand and we'll say, hey, Pedro, give me your hand. We're going to help bring you back under one condition. One condition that will help you. Have you pulled your head out of your ass? Can you please sign this document acknowledging that you were fucking wrong? That you no longer have your head up your ass. See that? Sign. Head out ass. Once you sign that, and we believe that you are no longer up Trump's ass, then we'll pull your ass back and we'll bring you to the back over to the good side, and we'll tell you, all right, you're back now. Please don't do that again. Will you please listen to the doctors, the scientists, the people with education, the people that actually live in large cities that have and have been exposed to culture, the people that know what the fuck they're talking about? How about you listen to them? Can you do that? Can you do that for me, please? And we'll let you go back to the country. We'll let you have all the relations you want with your goats and fuck your tractor. You do all of those things. We'll leave you alone. Because we never wanted to fuck with your way of life in the first place. No Democrat ever came to you and said, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do the other. It's the other way around. It's always been MAGA and the Republicans coming to the big city, trying to tell those folks how to live their life. You can't read this book. You can't dress that way. You can't marry that guy. You can't put your wiener there. Democrats don't give a rat's ass where you put your wiener. We know it's bad places. We don't care. You guys are the ones that are trying to strip rights. And guess what? All of you guys that don't look like Donald Trump, you're about to get your rights stripped by Donald Trump and those racist pieces of poop that you supported and put into office. And the whole time, everyone on the left, I pray to God, are going to be putting it in your face. That's our new mission. It's not about warning you anymore. It's not about asking you to open your eyes. It's not about anything but putting it in your face and making you understand you are wrong. You are wrong. How long is that going to take? It's going to take a long time. A long time. Anywho, mass deportations are coming. Fuck around, find out is coming. And it's going to be funny and sad all at the same time, because there are a lot of good people out there that are going to get caught up in your mess. I think the primary target of this discussion are Latinos for Trump. I'm Latino. Sure as hell not for Trump. admittedly, I'm mixed. My dad's a redneck from Kentucky. My mom was Garcia from the border. But I know that people. And I spent a decade in law enforcement, a large majority of that working as a U.S. Border Patrol agent on the border. I know the people that are coming across. No, they're not rapists. They're not dangerous. Those people that are coming across illegally represent more of what America stands for than most of you MAGA people trying to deport them. You forgot who we are as a country. You forgot that our founding fathers founded this country on the premise of escaping the same kind of tyranny that you've just put in office. You forgot all of that. You forgot, odds are you never knew, that in our Declaration of Independence, one of the grievances that our forefathers listed was King George's opposition to legal or to immigration. He did not want anybody coming into this country from a different place, only England. Our forefathers had open arms. They wanted people from all over the world to migrate to the United States. They wanted a diverse and big, large population of foreigners that would come to the United States and experience the American dream. The very first document that our forefathers penned talked about immigration, the value and the need of it, and it was one of the reasons they declared their independence against England. We are a nation of immigrants. It's how we started. It's in our fucking DNA. You're all immigrants. The fact that some of you are only 1 or 2 generations removed from people that came here illegally and are now trying to deport your own people, man, you're the bottom of the fucking barrel. There's no other way to put that. Because I don't give a rat's ass if they came in here illegally or legally. They aren't hurting you. They're helping you, if anything. What the fuck do you care? Some racist rich guy that shits on a golden toilet told you to hate your own people. And you fucking did. The fuck is wrong with you? It's horrible. There's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it. Y'all are just... I made a post once and I talked about it. If you don't relate and you don't understand, well, think about it in simple terms, man. You're bullies. Worse than that, you're not the bully. You were the one being picked on with your friends. And in order to avoid being picked on more, you joined the group of bullies and started picking on your own friends. You guys remember that? Large group of, football player bullies coming and picking on the little scrawny kid, the little nerds that were in the math club. Every one of them little nerds had a thought at some point. A, why am I being picked on? This is stupid. And B, man, I wish I was part of that group so I wasn't getting picked on. Right? These little middle schoolers wanted to join it. They wanted to be a part of that group to a certain degree. Some of them had the gumption and the balls to resist and say, pick on me. I'll never be like them. But some of them didn't. Some of them started picking on their friends so that they could be accepted. They started dressing and acting like the bullies, eventually becoming the same bullies that picked on them. That's what Latinos for Trump are. That's exactly what you guys are. You abandon your own people because you don't want to be associated with them because they're illegal. You know the difference between a documented and an undocumented immigrant is the equivalent of a misdemeanor? Entering this country without inspection is a misdemeanor. So you've determined that that undocumented person deserves to be called all of the things that Trump did versus the documented person because they basically ran a red light. Because of that person that has your same last name is vermin, rapist, doesn't deserve to be here. That's why. You don't get it. And that's fucked up. There's no sympathy for you. And I hope I come across one in public. Because I'm not going to hold back. Because you know what? Fucking shame on you. Donald Trump has been putting his racism, his misogyny in our faces. Unequivocally unapologetic. It's right there. The only reason that you would look past that and side with him is because you want to be with him and you don't want to be the one picked on because you're a coward. That's it. If you're a Latino for Trump, you're a fucking coward / moron. Or in Spanish, I think that's called a pende. There's a big O at the end. Pende. You know who you are. You know who you are. So yeah, when Billy Bob Constable that makes $12 an hour pulls up in his Ford Taurus and knocks on your door and says, there's been a report of illegal immigrants in this house, and you come out with your MAGA t-shirt on and say, well, chingao, sir, I'm an American citizen. He's going to say, prove it to the judge. Because you sure as hell don't look like no American citizen. And he's going to put you in his little car. He's going to haul you over to the nearest roundup spot. And you're going to end up in a detention camp with your birth certificate in one hand and your MAGA hat in the other and a fucking stupid look on your face. And then you're going to be like, I'll just tell the judge. Judge will believe me. Sorry, sir, you're going to have to wait 2 years to see that judge. And in the meantime, take your ass back to Mexico. We're going to dump your ass over there. Okay, there you are. Now you're in a bodega. You're sitting in Mexico. You got your birth certificate in one hand. You got your MAGA hat in the other and a taco sitting in front of you. Half eaten because you had to share it with the 3 other people. Waiting for your day in court, which will come sometime in the future. And by the time your day in court comes and you get there and you finally get to the court and you say, I'm an American citizen. And the judge says, yeah, you're right, dude. That sucks. He goes, yeah, damn it, I'm suing you. Well, you can't sue us. Who are you going to sue? The laws have all changed. It's, just a mistake. You come. Or let's say the laws don't change. You're going to come. You're going to sue. Let's say you get $100,000. Woo! Doesn't matter. Damage is done, man. At that point, Trump doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care about the consequence of all of this, even if it's negative to him, because he can't see past his fucking gut. He can't see 10 days past in the future. He does nothing. The guy's empty up there. And you got people like Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance. You've got a lot of smart people that see Trump for what he is. You got a lot of smart people that are going to come right up behind him and they're going to work hard. They're going to change the rules. They're going to change the laws. They're going to change it to the point that that doesn't fucking matter if you're a United States citizen. You don't look like us, baby. You don't belong here. They're making America great again. That's what they're doing. You know what great means? 1950. That's what great means. What do you think American Latinos, how they were treated back then? Any immigrant, how were they treated back then? That's what it's going to be like in the future. Because you're not part of his club. You never were part of his club. He doesn't count you. He just wanted your vote. Now he got it. He doesn't give a shit about you guys. He never did. Yeah, so I see some people asking to be invited. I don't have any moderators, guys, so I can't tell if you want to jump in here to get into an argument and debate. I'm not trying to debate anyone. That's not me. There's other people that will engage MAGA and have a conversation. At this stage in the game, MAGA, I have nothing to say to you except fuck around and find out. When I talk to you, MAGA, it's going to be to remind you of the dumb shit you did. In the future, I'll soften that up a bit. And it'll be like, okay, is your head out of your ass, sir? Let's have a conversation. But until the head has been extracted from your ass, and it's clear that facts, evidence, conversations aren't going to do it, otherwise that would have been done already. Lots of that has been going on. That ain't going to do it. The only way that your head comes out of your ass, right, is when you're finally sitting in Mexico with your birth certificate in one hand and your MAGA hat in the other, and you say, fuck, I was wrong. And nobody can pull that head out of your ass. You got to pull it out yourself, sir. Self-help. There's books on that. Look it up. Okay. MAGA. Most of you live in rural counties, rural cities, out in the sticks. That big red blog or blop, whatever you call it, blob. Most of you live out there, which means you don't have the experience of diverse cultures, which means it's easier to make you afraid of things you don't know and don't understand. That's human nature, right? Yeah. So if somebody tells you something bad or you see something bad on TV because other MAGA people are putting those stories in front of your face, the one-off story, like that trans person that competed in a race, somehow that became a national crisis. It was one race. And the parents of both of those folks, local authorities and local sports organizations would have handled it. It's fine. No, that's not good enough. We got to convince all of these dimwits that have never encountered or worked or dealt or understand trends. We got to convince all of them that there's this national crisis and their children are going to, get their wieners lobbed off. Right? That's exactly what's going to happen. Oh my God, I got to be afraid of them because you guys are morons, man. You don't know any better. You're ignorant. And you've just proven it because of the person you put in there. Some of you are going to be spared. Not a whole lot of you. Some of you will be spared any negative consequence from this Trump thing. Who will those people be? I'll tell you who they'll be. Very rich, not just rich, very rich white men. Very rich white men are going to benefit from Trump. Everybody else is going to suffer. I love it when I hear people talk about grocery prices. They literally use the fact that their Wonder Bread was expensive as justification to vote for Donald Trump. Do you know how much that illustrates just how ignorant you are? You have no clue, right? You don't understand that, right? Several things. First of all, somehow you attribute the presidency to your grocery price. Somehow you think inflation and grocery prices are the same thing. While related, they aren't. Somehow you think that because your groceries were cheaper when Donald Trump was in office, it must have been because of him. It wasn't. Somehow you think that because your grocery prices are more expensive now, it's all Biden's fault and his policies. It's not. Somehow you think that by electing Donald Trump, your Wonder Bread's gonna get cheaper. It's not. If it did, it wouldn't have anything to do with him, but it isn't. It was starting to go that route, but it's already going the other way. Why? Because of Trump's idiotic economic policies. Tariffs aren't going to help you. They're going to hurt you. We've said it. We've told you. You didn't believe us. Fuck around and find out. Phase 2, we're going to watch. I'll be the guy at the grocery store. You're grabbing the loaf of bread and saying, damn, my Wonder Bread got more expensive. Damn Chinese. No, man. Donald Trump. No, you did that. You did that. It's just asinine. Gas prices. You guys, you morons out in the country, you guys think that like the president has some kind of knob. He's like, gas up, gas down, gas up, gas down. And Biden says, let's make it up. And Trump's going to come in, let's make it down. Drill, baby, drill. That's his policy. Drill, baby, drill. Implying that he's going to get more American output of crude oil and stuff, right? Because you guys don't understand that there's a whole lot of complexities which what drives fuel prices. It's an extremely complex system that affects your fuel prices. There's worldwide factors at play here. Okay, drill baby drill means we're going to have more oil. We already have more oil. Today, the U.S. outputs more energy than any nation in the world and more than we ever have in our history. Drill baby drill. We're already drilling. Never mind that, right? Because I'm, old Betsy, my goat, needs some loving. The stupidity in the kinds of things that you guys use to justify the vote is beyond me. Because that's the thing. It's either you just use that as a kind of a veil because deep down you're just a racist and you like the ugly things he said. So you use that as your argument because you can't say I'm a racist. You got to say, oh, it's because, drill baby drill and my Wonder Bread and that's why. No, it's just because you're racist. That's one side. The other side of that is it's not that you're really a racist, but you actually did believe the drill baby drill and somehow he's going to fix your Wonder Bread, which makes you a moron. So you're either a racist or you're a moron. Either way, we're fucked. And so are you. Holy crap. Anyway, oil prices, right? He's just going to somehow make things better for you. The whole... It's crazy. It's just, oh, and here's what's nuts. And this happened the first time he became president. Normally, a conservative Republican administration tightens their belt. They spend less money. At least that's the idea, right? Fiscal conservatism. Have you guys heard of that? I used to be a Republican, and that's why, because I felt like, man, we shouldn't be spending so much money. People should be more self-reliant, right? We're spending too much money, man. All of these things. Donald Trump came into office. His administration outspent, what is it, like the 2 or 3 Democratic administrations before him? The guy was crazy spending money. Out of his mind. The difference is, and this is the part that gets me, he didn't spend it on you. He didn't spend all that money to make your life better. He just blew it. He spent it. All of the good things you were experiencing literally came from the previous economy, because that's how it works. An economy takes a long time to get strong. And just like a fire, it eventually will burn out if you're not feeding it properly. Donald Trump came on board. The economy was a blazing bonfire. So he's enjoying all of it as it starts to fizzle and burn out, because he didn't feed it properly, because he's a moron. By the time he left office, the economy was fucking in shambles. And then everyone blames COVID. Well, you're right to blame COVID to a certain degree, but the economy was already tanking before COVID hit. And then Trump's response to COVID just amplified it, made it 10 times worse. It's not that difficult to understand. Well, if you're not too busy with your goat out there in the country, maybe then it is. So yeah, extract your private parts from said farm animal and read something other than Breitbart. Jeez. So yeah, man, that's my new mission. It's fuck around and find out. It's the find out phase. We warned you. We tried to warn you. Called it fear-mongering. You ignored facts. You denied science. You ignored things you saw with your own eyes. You justified it. All of the things so that you could have your way. And now you're about to find out. The economy is going to be in a really bad place fast because of the things that Trump is proposing. Racial tensions, segregation, division in the country is going to get a lot worse because Trump and his armies are going to authorize it. They're going to make it legal, and it's going to become the law of the land to discriminate. The only way you deport people is if you first somehow profile and make a determination on who it is you should be deporting. The people that are going to make that determination are going to be racially motivated. Why? Because Trump spent the last 8 years making sure that that's the case. Every time someone drops something in my comment and he says, that's pretty much all it is. Anytime somebody drops something in my comments and talks about it not being racially motivated, you're just not paying attention. And let me tell you something. The fact that Trump won the election only proves that there are a lot more morons or racists in our country. That's it. It's not a good thing. Democrats lost the election, but we did not lose the righteousness. Good over evil, right versus wrong, light versus dark. You guys won. Darkness won this battle. Darkness won this election. Ignorance won this election. Lies won this election. Racism and misogyny won this election. It does not make you right. You're wrong. The bad guys won this election. And it's happened before in our past. Lots of battles have been won by the bad guys. And I was really disappointed that we lost this battle because I didn't think it could happen. I didn't understand how many people in this country were that lost, ignorant, racist, and misogynist. I didn't get it. I get it now. I get it. But you're not on the right side. And the good guys will prevail. We are the freedom fighters now. We're the ones defending democracy. And it's going to be a clearer path because the enemy is clearer. And all of the people that fell prey to this are going to learn over a period of time. See, what's going to happen is MAGA has to continue to build on the racism and the division, just like Adolf did in Germany in the 30s. He got elected. It didn't stop there. He has to continue to divide people. It's going to keep going. He's not going to bring us together. He can't become an authoritarian if he brings us together. That's not how you win. He divides us. And he basically marginalizes. And as the division happens, one side usually is going to win over the other. And right now, the one side that's winning over the other is the larger side, the louder side. And those are the ones that are listening to the lies. The difference between what happened then and why Trump's going to fail now is because of us. It's because of the people on the left, the people with education, the people that do believe science, the people that have righteousness on their side. That's why we're going to win. Because we're not going to sit back and just roll over and let you morons parade your bride goats around our streets. That ain't going to happen. No. We're going to be in your face every single day, just like this simple little live is. The regular old dude reminding you every single day of how you fucked up. And unlike before, where all we had were words, now we're going to have actual evidence as it unfolds in real time to show you how you fucked up over and over and over again. The chaos that's about to ensue will awaken the other third of the country that sat on their ass and didn't appreciate how dangerous things really were. They're going to start seeing it. Those people that said, I'm not into politics, are going to get into politics. The Democrats that sat on their ass, for whatever reason, didn't come out and vote, aren't going to sit on their ass again. And it isn't going to be because some political candidate like Kamala came out and convinced you, or some mainstream media came out and told you a great story, or you read some newspaper article. What's going to wake those people up? It's the reality that's going to be unfolding all fucking around them. All around them. The reality. That's what's going to wake them up. The good people of the country that didn't listen are going to see it unfolding all around them. And they're going to say, whoa. And there's still a lot more of them out there than they are MAGA. It's one of the problems I think that we did in the past. I think that the folks on the left, us, me, your average citizen, relied too heavily on the traditional means of communicating to the masses. Mainstream media, political parties, candidates, and rallies. We relied on them to make sure that all of the right message got out. And we also just didn't understand just how pervasive the cancer of MAGA had become. Most of us just associated with, well, it's just a few crazy loud folks out there. And yeah, there's a lot of them, but surely most Americans aren't that stupid. So we didn't engage. So when MAGA would go out there and every day lie to you, lie to your face, lie, 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 nobody was in your face telling you the truth. It was one-off. For every 10 lies, maybe one person like Neil deGrasse Tyson or someone was out there trying to tell you the truth. But, a little bit. Little truth. Or it was coming from sources that were blocked out of the whole magasphere completely. Mainstream media. Well, let's be truthful. Anybody that disagrees with Trump, they were blocked out. They're all lying. So we'll just keep them out. That's really what happened. Right? That's where we went wrong. For 8 years, Donald Trump spent every single day beating lies into the American population. And you tell a lie enough times consistently, over and over and over again, people will believe it, especially if it's something that they want to believe in at their core. And I'm sorry, everybody has a tidbit of racism inside them. Anyone different is always afraid. It's innate. You have to fight against it. It's kind of there. Just you fear something other than yourself, different. So he tapped into that and he just beat the lie in for 8 years. So then the Democrats are like, hey, here's Kamala. She's going to come out and save the day. That poor lady didn't stand a chance. How are you going to give someone 150 days to convince you that somebody that you've been lied to for the last 8 years? The only way you can do that is by using logic and reason and truth, and that didn't work before. So can you counter that? Yeah, you can. How do you counter that? You have to use the same tactics that Donald Trump and his MAGA movement used. It's constant repetition over and over again in your face. We can't ignore MAGA. We have to be in their fucking face every single day, at the church, at the grocery store. Everywhere you see MAGA, you have to be in their face. And I'm not talking about confronting them and starting fights. I'm talking about truth. If you hear somebody say some dumb shit that's MAGA, you need to say 10 times over the truth to the same people he's saying it to. Because the only way that they're going to understand is through the same non-stop, constant messaging that MAGA did. The difference is we're going to be saying the truth. We're going to be putting the truth, facts, evidence as it's unfolding in real time right in their fucking faces. And we're going to do that for years because they're not going to stop. They're sure as hell not going to stop. It's going to be non-stop bullshit, division, lies, and hatred coming from MAGA. And we're not going to defeat that by just sitting on the sides and waiting for another election cycle. We have to fight back right now with the truth. They don't want to listen. It doesn't matter. You're going to hear it anyway. Every time dude says the sky's green, I'm going to say it's blue. Look the fuck up. He's not going to look up. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it 100 fucking times. Eventually he'll be like, well, it looks blue, but it's still green. That's fine. I'm going to say it 100 more times. And eventually, it's going to get through that thick fucking stupid skull of yours. That's how it has to happen. So all of you guys on social media, all of you guys on TikTok, on Instagram, that are just reading and scrolling through MAGA bullshit, reply, stitch it. Say, no, you're fucking wrong. You don't have to call them names, but you have to counter the message the same way they are. All of you people that are blocking MAGA, all of you people that are avoiding MAGA, stop it. You need to fuck with MAGA. That's what you need to do. We need to fuck with MAGA or else they're going to spread. There is a cancer that's overtaking our country. You don't just sit back in the corner and say, look at them fucking idiots. They're fucking destroying us. You have to engage. You have to counter the lies and the bullshit with facts and truth, and you have to do it in an aggressive way. You have to wear the shirt. You have to fly the fucking flag. I don't give a shit if you live in the red country. If you're afraid of your neighbors, fuck them. That fear should drive and motivate you. Why are you afraid of your neighbors in this country? You can't be. You have to fight. In the Second World War, young Americans stormed the beaches of Normandy under direct fire from pew-pews. Can I say that word? From a fascist government. They went there to end fascism, to fight it. These are kids. They found the courage to run through that across those beaches. And you're telling me us Gen Xers and Gen Zers sitting on our fucking computer can't find the courage to make a fucking post? We've had it too easy, people. We've had it too easy. That's the truth of it. It ain't over. The battle is just starting. Our battleground looks a lot different than it did back then. But it's no less dangerous because it's within, it's around us, it's all around us. And I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about truth and facts, and don't be afraid of the fascists. Don't be afraid of the idiots. Don't be afraid of the racists, of the misogynists. You have to fight them. Find it in you. If you can't find it in you, we are all fucked. Nobody is coming to our rescue. There's no political party. There's no political candidate. There's no news media outlet. There's no foreign country that's going to come save our ass. It's up to you. We're on our own here. We have to fight. We're wrestling with the cancer in our country. And the only ones that can save us are ourselves. And that means you have to argue with the idiots. The people that live out in the country that have never met a trans person in their life, don't understand the difference between gender and sex, and are spreading rampant lies around about the dangers, have to be engaged. They have to be told the truth, the reality, and it has to be done aggressively, often in their fucking face. And listen, maybe you're not one to confront someone in person. That's fine. Most of them aren't either. Get online, make a post, repost, follow somebody, share something, post 100 times a day. And every time you do, tag Trump, tag MAGA, because you want them to see it. You see a MAGA post, don't just run away from it. Reply to it, stitch it, give them the middle finger, tell them they're idiots, give them the evidence, show them the facts. You see something happening out in society in real time, capture it, record it, stream it, show it to the world. It's happening all around. You're in church and your pastor says some racist shit, stand up, call him a fucking racist. If your pastor is saying racist shit, he's not representing the religion that you probably think you belong to, and you need to fucking leave. There's probably another church you can go join that doesn't. And if you can't find one, worship at home. You don't have to abandon your teachings as a Christian because your religious leaders have. You should fight against that. I'm not a very religious guy, but that's some bullshit that's happening. Go to church. Stand up. Guy next to you says something, flip him off. In the name of God, fuck you. In the name of Jesus Almighty, stack this up your ass. Fuck people, don't just sit back and roll over and let these idiots, because that's what they are, take over this whole fucking country. Facts, righteousness, goodness prevails only if you fucking use it. Well, I'm sitting here in my corner and look at those MAGA people saying all those bad things, and I don't agree with that. But I don't want to say anything. Oh, heavens no. Heavens yes, say something. Who the fuck will if you don't? You're at the supermarket and you see some MAGA bully picking on an immigrant? You need to go up there and defend that immigrant. You're a 65-year-old lady with a walker? You need to go defend that immigrant. You're a kid, weakling, and that guy is a big, strong guy? You need to go defend that immigrant. You get beat up, get beat up. You need to defend righteousness. All of you have to do it. You don't win by being cowards and letting the bad bullies win. We don't succeed that way. All you do is avoid confrontation is what you do. Imagine if our forefathers had decided we should just avoid confrontation. We don't really agree with what England is doing, but we don't want to cause trouble. We don't want to upset anybody. Little bitty nation. Little bitty nation. People running around in fucking tights and wigs. Little bitty nation took on the most powerful country with the most powerful navy in the fucking world. Why? Because they were right. Because they were good. And they didn't let fear overtake them. So all of you Americans out there worried about MAGA? No. Grab your fucking cojones and do something about it. Stand up to it. Put your flags up. Point fingers at them. Say that they're wrong. Defend the innocent. Defend the righteous. Don't let them get away with it. Do it. Fight. And you might lose, but you left it all on the field. You might get pushed, knocked over. Somebody might break your window or spray paint your car. But you keep in the fight, because your spray painted car or bruised hip is not worth the freedoms you're trying to sacrifice with your inaction. You need to do something. You need to be loud about it. And it's different, like I said. Guys, I'm not saying this just to rile people up. I'm saying this because it's the reality. It's where we are today. We weren't there last month. Last month, we were depending on reason and goodness and righteousness and facts and our institutions. We were depending on our political candidates and their rallies. Love Kamala to death. I love Tim Walz. They're fucking awesome people. It ain't on them. The Democratic Party, the mainstream media, they all failed. I don't blame them. They did their best. They aren't going to fix this. You have to fix it. You have to wear the shirt. You have to march in the parades. You have to do all of the things that you need to do to show the MAGA people that they are wrong. Hulk F MAGA. Man. All right. I think I'm going to chill and go get some breakfast and have a conversation with my old lady and my kids, and then go fucking mess around in my garage and build something. I got an old 86 Firebird I'm building. Kit car. My Impala needs a different transmission because I'm running at 3,000 RPM down the highway, and that thing uses super high octane because it's a 496 racing engine. So I can literally see the needle go like that. So I gotta go work in the garage. I love you all. Don't fucking sit on the sidelines. Get involved. Make some noise. Make sure that MAGA understands the find out part of the fuck around and find out. They fucked around. They have to find out. And you have to remind them that you told them so. Peace, everyone.